Okay, time to do the graphing portion. We've got our tables going on here, and I did give it a name as well. Really important to give it a name. So I want to graph all these things. So I'm going to highlight from here all the way down to there. And I'm going to say Insert Chart. And it gives me different kinds. Sometimes it gives me a column chart. And I don't want a column chart. I definitely want a line graph. And for some reason, it's trying to give me a series saying kilometers traveled. Well, that's not one of the Y's, that's just the X value. So I'm going to get rid of that one. That's this blue line here. I'm going to get rid of him. So I only have the 3 lines. And I'm going to say row 1 is my headers. Okay, it's cost agency A, cost agency B, cost agency C. So that's getting good so far. Notice some customizations here. So it's a line chart. There's other types you could pick on here as well. They're all about the same though, okay? So I'll stick with this one for now, and then we can customize things. So chart style was that we've got not a problem. The axes and titles, that one I do want to do. So the chart title is the first default. I'm going to say comparison of rental agencies, rental cars. Okay, that's coming across the top, and I can do whatever I want. I can, make it in the middle, whatever I want to do there. Okay, it also lets me do the horizontal axis, so that's going along the bottom. So the horizontal axis is going to be the number of kilometers traveled. Okay, and I think I'll leave that centered. And then the vertical axis is talking about the cost per agency, or cost of rental. How's that sound? Okay, so it's starting to shape up here. Let's keep going through the customization there. So other things we can do, we already looked at series a little bit. We can add in trend lines, we'll see that later on. That's really more for the scatter plots, not for the join graphs here though. And we're gonna go all the way down to here, grid lines, and I'm gonna put the major ticks in here so it looks nice. And I'm gonna also look, and I realized I'm missing the labels across the x-axis here. So if I'm back to setup, I should have called this as well, add the x-axis, and it's this one, the kilometers traveled. So that's gonna show along the bottom now. And that's why it's going to look a little bit better. Okay, so we've got the graph there. I can move it up if I want to on my graph here to get it near the top, just because it looks. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I think I might, if I double click on there, it actually takes me to the pieces I'm thinking about. And I'll just put maybe my units in there, so for dollars, okay? And number of kilometers traveled, that looks good. Okay, so this all looks great. So let's look at the questions we're asked now. It says, if you drive 150 kilometers, how much will each agency charge you? So we can go back to our spreadsheet, and it said 150 kilometers, and we can look on there and try and figure it out, and you can actually scroll along and see things if you want to. There's 150, agency B is $60, excuse me. Or we can see, okay, it looks like the red one's the cheapest, then the blue one's more expensive, and the yellow one's the most expensive. Or we can come down here and say, okay, at 150 kilometers, let's scroll down to here, and now's when you need to be careful. At 150 kilometers, it's this row right here, and I'm just going to fill it with purple, I guess. And at 150 kilometers, A is 65, B is 60, and C is 75, okay? So it's important you don't grab the left-hand column, that's row 152, but it's 150 kilometers, okay? And if we went into here and we looked at it, we'll see at 150 kilometers, we're going to write it out rather than just doing a screenshot of whatever's on the spreadsheet so that we know that you've interpreted it properly. Okay. Second one is if you're only going to plan 80 kilometers, which agency will the cheapest rental car? So again, we can go back to 80 kilometers, which is this row. And I'll do that in a different color here. I call this, B if you want to. It's going to be the cheapest one is this one here, the $40, which is agency C. So again, I'm going to write down here, the cheapest one is going to be agency C at $40, not just a copy of the spreadsheet to have the teacher interpret. And the last one is when is it cheapest to rent from agency B? So that one gets a little trickier. So agency B is the red one, and it looks like it's the cheapest from here to here. Okay, it looks like from 100 kilometers to 200 kilometers, but we want to double check to be sure that that's actually the cheapest area. So we're going to go down to where we think it is, 100 kilometers. 100 kilometers, 49.60. Sorry, that's 100. And here, 100 kilometers is here, 50, and this one's 50. So from here, it's cheapest, and I'm going to keep going till we think it's still 200. I'm going to highlight this as well, and then we're just going to double check. There's 200. So I'm going to highlight those for a second in green and make sure those were correct, okay? So it's cheapest anywhere in this green, I think, from 100 to 200. Definitely it's cheapest here, or it's tied here. So maybe we could say from 101, maybe instead of from 100, so I'll get rid of that one. Could say from 101, or we could say it's tied at 100. So from here to here, are we cheapest in this row? 60, this is 69.80, this is only 69.60, so it's cheapest. We've got to keep going here. I didn't get to 200. 69.80, we're still cheaper at $70, we're the same, and there's where it's row 200. Okay, so I'm going to highlight these guys as well and say, okay, from 100 to 200, there's the 200, we're going to be cheapest, and that's what I put in on my third question. Okay, so it looks like there. Just double check in the spreadsheet to be sure. Okay, last step is we're going to submit this. So we're going to submit it to rental car spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on there. It's going to go to a Dropbox, and we're going to add a file, and it's from my Google Drive. And my most recent one should be there, car rental. It comes up as a PDF, but that's okay. But I really want to make sure that it comes up as it gets my spreadsheet as well. So just before I do that, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to come back to my spreadsheet. I'll go back up to the top, and I'm going to get this share, and I'm going to go into the share and say this get link, and I want to make sure I change it down here to, instead of only the people I share to, I'm going to say anyone with a link. And because you're sharing it to the teacher, I would go ahead and say editor. If you're sharing it to friends and you don't want someone to edit it, you can go ahead and say viewer, but because you're sharing to the teacher, go ahead and say editor, copy link. Okay, and that way you don't have to go and in the share put any people's names in here. You just need that link because anyone with a link can edit. I'm just going to go ahead and put that link in here. Okay, and now when I go to add a file, Google Drive, car rental, it's going to include that link in there. Perfect. Add, and it gives me as a snapshot PDF, but I'm also going to say here is my spreadsheet in the comments. Okay, and that way definitely the teacher's going to get it. Super easy. Submit.